The war is over. The treaties are signed. The bodies are buried. You've just been conquered by the greatest empire on the planet. And whether you're a Gaul or a Carthaginian, whether your homeland is in the east or the west, life as you know it will never be the same again. Rome is coming to town. Rome conquered with the brute force of her military machine, sweeping entire peoples into her empire. At its height, the empire ruled 50 million people. Greeks, Etruscans, Gauls, Egyptians, and countless others came together as a single civilization. But no one became Roman overnight. Rome had to conquer the hearts and minds of her people, just as powerfully as she won her vast territories. But this conquest was a psychological one, and no effort was spared to win it. In a single year, 80 AD, the Emperor Titus staged the slaughter of 9,000 wild animals. Countless lions, tigers, elephants, and giraffes traveled fantastic distances to die before frenzied audiences. In a single celebration, the Emperor Trajan presented 10,000 gladiators, slaves and criminals doomed to savage combat for the amusement of Romans. The games were a kind of violent propaganda, cruel displays full of drama and excitement.
The games were considered successful.
There is nothing more harmful to one's character. When I return from the arena, I am greedier, more aggressive.
But the games were far more than just violent entertainments to thrill the masses. They were also the very essence of Romanness.
Good advertising. I don't think they did that, but I think that it worked to that end, in that this showed what we could do. After all, you can't watch a battle. You couldn't watch those Roman troops going off to war because that was a long way away and there was no television and there were no newspapers to tell you about that. But as much as anything, you could see the construction of the Colosseum and you could see people filling it up, and that would tell you, hey, that's our empire. That's what we're capable of.
From Roman Africa to Britannia to the mysterious East, the message of the Roman arena was the same. Rome was the all-powerful conqueror of all she surveyed. See, most of the land was devoted to growing corn or grain, also wheat, barley, and a coarse cereal called all.
Corn is the staple diet of the vast majority of the Roman population, something like 70 to 80% of the diet. It's the equivalent of a third world country now. You ate a lot of porridge in ancient Rome, most people did, and very little else, only meat very occasionally.
A family might have grown a few vegetables, rosemary and other herbs for flavoring and medicine. If they were lucky, maybe some apples or grapes. The world was also the greatest importer of everything on the planet.
Everything is shipped to you, from every land and from every sea. You can see so many cargoes from India or from Arabia that you might think the trees in those countries had been left permanently bare. Egypt, Sicily, and Libya are your farms. The arrival and departure of ships never cease, and consequently, it is quite amazing that there is enough room in the sea, much less in the harbor, for the ships. Aelius Aristides.
If you were rich enough to enjoy it, Rome was indeed Rome, the grand and glorious marketplace of the world. Cargo unloaded in the port was spectacular in both volume and quality. Marble, papyrus, jewels, gold, spices, silk, ivory, fur, and linen arrived by the shipload. Romans were voracious consumers of wine, oil, and wheat, and wealthy connoisseurs of the finest luxury goods their empire had to offer.
The only way in which we could have a city like Rome, a city of 1 million people perhaps, the only way that could exist in the ancient world is if the goods from this huge empire flood into it to help it survive. In a very basic way, you cannot feed a population of 1 million on the local hinterland of a city. That's one of the first ways in which provinces are exploited.
Fantastic amounts of grain now came from North Africa, Sicily, and Sardinia. The city of Rome alone devoured 400,000 tons each year, almost a quarter of which was now given away to the poor. The army needed another 150,000 tons to stay on its feet. Rome also imported spices and perfume from the east, olive oil and fish sauce from Spain. Still the most recognized symbol of the empire, the famous Colosseum in Rome was the model for hundreds of amphitheaters throughout the provinces.
The Egyptians left tombs behind, pyramids. We think of that immediately. We think of Greek temples. But the Romans, I think the most famous thing that they left behind probably were the stadiums. The Colosseum, Circus Maximus, and also other stadiums around the empire. And that's what we have as our cathedrals today. And any city that wants to really call itself a city now doesn't build a skyscraper, and doesn't build a place of worship, builds a stadium. In that sense, we're more connected with the Romans than I think in any other.
There was a good reason arenas were so monumentally important, for here was the true heart and soul of empire.
It's a very good way to look at the games as a reflection of the ideals of empire. The big gladiators are there to display their courage, their bravery in front of the crowds. Beast hunts. What kind of person is able to bring a hippopotamus from Africa and put it on display in Rome? What kind of person is able to take lions from one part of the empire and put them on in another? The emperor not only controls people, but he controls all of nature.
Day divided among more than 40 nations, from the Atlantic to the Euphrates, from the Sahara to Scotland, more than 2 million square miles. Romans built a stunning network, 53,000 miles of paved roads connecting the empire. Roman roads put end to end would have circled the earth twice. And they were so well built, many survive to this day with the original paving stones. Like the American interstate system, Roman roads made it possible to defend a huge territory. The endless byways also accommodated tax collectors, traders, and messengers as they traveled from exotic Egypt all the way to the hostile Scottish Moors. A fast courier could travel nearly 200 miles in a day. The army could reach anywhere in the empire in a matter of weeks. The march from Rome to Spain was said to take just 27 days. Buildings, roads, bridges, commerce, and protection, all courtesy of the conquering Romans, all the wonders Rome brought to the world. To the common man, perhaps the greatest luxury of all was fresh, clean, running water. Spectacular and brilliantly designed Roman aqueducts brought a continuous flow of water out of the mountains and into town. Sophisticated engineering built an ingeniously simple structure, graded ever so gently, so gravity did all the work. Thus, millions of gallons moved hundreds of miles to the spot where they'd be used, all without need of fossil fuel, electric pumps, or human effort. Some ancient cities had 2 to 3 times as much water per person as many cities today. The aqueduct was a feat of engineering so impressive, Romans themselves imagined we might marvel at them long after their builders were gone.
Will anyone compare the idol pyramids to these great aqueducts, these indispensable structures? Anonymous.
Public baths, fountains, and even the wealthiest homes were provided with clean running water. Sewers channeled waste into rivers or seas, providing a level of sanitation not matched for nearly 2,000 years and still not met today in some parts of the world.